Hey guys, it's Joe and Devin with Architech Sports. We're back today to talk about some CrossFit movements that we think are really important to start bulletproofing your shoulders, your core, your hamstrings, and teaching your pelvis how to get from a typical symmetrical activity to an asymmetrical activity. A lot of times we stay in that sagittal plane. So we're going to break it down today. We got 6 movements we're going to go over, and Devin's going to be our superstar model. Let's get into it. So what we see a lot is we see a lot of overhead movements in CrossFit where CrossFitters may not know where their shoulders are in relation to their shoulder blade. So we want to make sure there's a contact point where that humerus pushes up into that shoulder socket. Okay, it's called the glenoid, which is on your shoulder blade. And they should always be in synchrony with each other. Okay? So the first move we're going to do is a scapular handstand. It's supposed to teach our shoulder blade how to push into our humerus, and our humerus how to push into our shoulder blade. So my rule is, if your hands move away from your body, your shoulder blades have to move with your hands. So this would be prepping for an overhead press, a handstand, okay, an overhead squat, okay? We're just creating stability here. And so what we're doing by holding this tension, okay, is we're stimulating our serratus muscle that surrounds the front part of our shoulder blade. We're stabilizing with our rotator cuff, okay? We're activating the lower trap and the middle trap and the upper trap to isometrically help hold that shoulder blade stacked on top of the humerus. What we're focusing on is that we're not allowing our back to arch, so again, arch your back, Dev, where we're trying to brace with the wrong muscles, potentially our lats and our paraspinals. We're trying to keep our core hollow, which we're going to go over in a little bit, to allow our serratus, our abdominals, and our diaphragm to work with each other to maximize stability on our anterior chain in our core, okay? And we're going to build this up to about 3 minutes. Once we can get the 3 minutes here, okay, without shoulder pain, without collapsing, then we're ready to get on the wall. We'll walk ourselves up, and again, we're using that wall as a point of reference. So we're trying not to let our belly button fall into the wall. You have to do that. Where we're collapsing, okay? We're trying to lock that core and get into a hollow position where that belly button should not be touching. The tips of our toes should be touching. Our thighs really shouldn't even be touching. Our chest shouldn't really be touching. We're pushing through the floor, okay? And then we're trying to just build up time in that position. So we're going to do this time under tension, we're going to call it. And if we can build up to 3 minutes in this position, we're going to build up a lot of isometric strength and stability surrounding our shoulder, girdle, scapula, and humerus to help us with a lot of push overhead movements. All right, guys, we're going to work on now is we just worked on stabilizing the shoulder joint, okay? Trying to get the humeral head and the shoulder blade to move on each other and stabilize into each other, okay? So that's what would be great for overhead pushing movements, okay? Now, when we're hanging from the bar, before we get into kipping and pull-ups and everything, I want to make sure that our humerus is not going to separate from our joint, okay? Separate from our shoulder blade. So again, we're going to utilize that same concept. If our hands are above our head, our shoulder blades have to be moving with our hands, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to try to resist the humerus from going this way and the shoulder blade from coming that way. So we're going to do what we call an active hang, okay? Utilizing the hollow body position that we may have practiced in the beginning stages of CrossFit that we should still utilize with every single one of our movements. All right, get up there, Dev. Again, our challenge is going to be, let's build up to a 3-minute active hang. And what's this going to do? It's going to strengthen our rotator cuff so we can resist our humerus from being pulled out of the socket as we start getting into our kipping movements. Okay, because all our kipping movements are really going to start from this position. Ribs are pulled down. This is the first thing I think about. Ribs are pulled down, okay? Shoulder blades are matching what the humerus is doing. So if I'm falling, okay, we're pulling the shoulder blades down and back and in, but we're adding a little bit of squeeze with our traps, okay? Because we want to keep our shoulder blade packed in with the humerus, okay? And in this position, okay, we're trying to bring those ribs back down. And what we're working on is, in the lower part, our active glutes. You should see foot in front of torso. You should see shoulders slightly behind wrists. If you're hanging with the ribs up, lift those ribs up, your shoulders are hanging above your or below your wrists. That's going to let you know you're not active and you're just cranking on your joint. And again, building up to 3 minutes will be a great goal, and it'll be pretty challenging. It'll really help you guys when you're getting ready to start with pull-ups. It's going to help you when you start into kips. Another modification would be, instead of staying in an active hang at the bottom, we'll flip around and get into a pull-up position. We can get into an active hang at the top where we can use a box. We can have somebody help us, okay? But we're going to work on staying in a pinched position from the top, okay? Still staying hollow. Now we're pulling shoulder blades down and back. Since our hands are closer to our body, our shoulder blades have to be closer to our body. We're trying to isometrically stabilize here. We don't want to just use all back. Try it, Dev. Arch your back for me. We don't want to be all back. We want to still have that core engaged. That's pretty good. And again, building that up for 3 minutes would be pretty fun. But those are two great hanging challenges, guys. All right, guys, we're back with CrossFit Grunt Work Sunday Challenge number 3. And we're going to get into the bottom of the squat, Dev. And a lot of times I'll see people, they'll just squat and they don't know what they're supposed to do with their pelvis, right? They hear the butt wink, they hear, oh, my hips hinge, don't arch your back at the bottom. But then we know we're not supposed to let our back round, so where are we supposed to be? Some people, I'll look at overhead squats and then all their mechanics are lost. Their shoulders roll forward, their butt winks, their hips impinge, their knees roll in. So what I like to do is we're just going to slow everything down and we're going to work on an isometric hold, okay? So what we're going to do, let's start at the top, Dev. And we're going to grab a super light plate, 10 pounds, 5 pounds, 2.5 pounds, I don't care. What we're going to do is we're going to get to the bottom of the squat, locked in a completely neutral position. And we want to be active, so we don't want to bottom out. We want to stay to where we can still feel glutes, hamstrings, quads active. Bounce a little bit, make sure we're in there. All right, so he's using muscles, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to raise our arms up as high as we can, keeping our spine in a nice straight line. And we're going to see the back side of our body completely activate, okay? And what this is going to do is it's going to work on all of our trapezius muscles, upper trap, middle trap, lower trap. For people that are not quite ready to go overhead, this is a great line to work on, so you can start learning what your spine's supposed to do, perfectly neutral, instead of compensating, go overhead and arch. Okay? Well, he's actually naturally pretty good, so he's not going to even do it anyways. So, or the other way around where we're too rounded, okay? Where we don't have enough strength in our paraspinals or flexibility in our hips to get our pelvis between our knees. So what we'll do is, again, building up to 3 minutes in that position, and you will burn within your first 30 seconds in all the right spots. Quads, hammies, glutes, paraspinals, upper trap, okay, serratus, core muscles. They're all going to burn. I think, Dad, you're sweating a little bit, right?
Oh, yeah.
Good. All right, so if we can build that up to 3 minutes, that's a good overhead squat prep challenge. What it feels like at the bottom of a squat, what it feels like to have a nice straight spine at the bottom of your squat. And I challenge you guys, if, on your Sundays, when you're like, I don't know what to do, it's an open gym, spend 3 minutes doing this as a warm-up, and your squats will probably improve just because you're hitting that bottom with a perfectly neutral spine with your glutes in the right position. So that'll be a good challenge. All right, guys, we're back with Grunt Work Sunday. We're going to work on a lateral step down to work on triplanar control, which is we're staying in the sagittal plane a lot, flexion and extension in CrossFit, okay? We're trying to always resist the frontal plane, okay? And we don't move much in the transverse plane. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create a triplanar movement where we're actually going to have our knee bend in the sagittal plane. We're using our lateral hip muscles and obliques to resist the frontal plane, okay? And we're going to use our gluteals, hamstrings, and adductors to help move us into the transverse plane. And why is that important? We'll use these muscles more, okay? Our power muscles, our posterior chain. A lot of times when we're squatting, we're overworking our quadriceps. Our knees may be driving a little too far forward. We may be landing from double unders where our knees are too far forward. And at the end of the high volume training week, what do we feel? Oh yeah, my tendons are sore. My patella tendons are sore. My quads are really tight. And we can foam roll all we want. We can dry needle all we want. We can use tempering all you want. You can roll barbells, you can step, you can use Theraguns all you want. But if you don't change that pattern, we're not fixing anything. We're just band-aiding. So what we're going to look at is how do we incorporate using the back side of our body with the front side of our body. All right, simple exercise, lateral step down. It's going to help you in more ways than one. And I challenge all CrossFitters on Sunday grunt days, see if they can do 30 of these from a 12-inch box without their knee wiggling. That's the challenge. If he is appropriately standing on his left leg, this butt should be back in relation to this butt. So his left butt should be back more than his right, which means his center of mass has moved over his left leg. And why is that important? Because if it stays over his right leg, everything's going to collapse in, and we're not going to use the correct muscles. Our arch is going to cave in. Why is this important for CrossFitters? Because we do lots of two-leg exercises, and we get imbalances from our left side to our right side. So we're at the bottom of the squat. Why am I shifting one way or the other? This is a great way to correct some of that, okay? So how do we get from here to the complete bottom of the squat? We got to get a lot stronger. So we can go from a 12-inch to a 16-inch to a 24-inch to a 36-inch box, okay? You'll be in a full pistol squat at that point. You will probably have a lot of improvements to your double leg activity as you improve your single leg strength. So something I see is when their knee goes just too far forward, okay, go back to facing that way, is there's a cue I'll use where I can put a foam roller in front. That means someone has really good ankle dorsiflexion, which is great, okay, except they're going to overwork their quadriceps. So somebody who's got patellar tendon pain from double unders, running on their heels, something like that, this is a good way to correct it. You put a foam roller in front, okay, and when he comes down, his first movement is going to be sit your hips back. So now he knows cue-wise his knee's not going to go past his toe, okay, and he's going to be able to sit back into that hip. And the other rule of thumb, because the knee can come forward a little bit, is if the knee's going to come forward, the butt also has to come backwards at the same rate. You want to sit back? There's a great video, guys. You can look up Arthur's squat technique that explains this. All right, guys. So we learned 4 great movements to work on for Sunday grunt day. I challenge you guys building up to 3 minutes for each of those movements. If you can hang from that bar with your chin above for 3 minutes, good luck. And until next time, Architect Sports.